When building a gaming PC, saving $30 by grabbing the cheapest graphics card on the shelf seems like a no-brainer, but in the world of hardware, cheap and value are completely different things. Today, we take a look at the ultimate budget trap, NVIDIA's 9500 GT versus the 9600 GT. First, we're starting with Half-Life 2. To give these cards a real workout, we are cranking it all the way up to 1080p max settings with 4x MSAA. On paper, this is where the 9500 GT's cut-down 32 stream processors should still hold their own. And as the benchmark kicks off, the 9500 GT doesn't look terrible at first glance, averaging 80 to 100 frames per second, but pay close attention to heavy action scenes. It frequently dips down to 60 and below. Now look over to the 9600 GT, it is playing an entirely different game. Thanks to its wider 256-bit memory interface, it stays pinned above 200 frames per second with its absolute worst drops only falling to 160. It's a completely flawless high refresh rate experience, while the cheaper card is already showing cracks. Next up is 2007's Call of Duty 4. We are playing at 1080p max settings, but we are disabling anti-aliasing to give the 9500 GT a fighting chance. This is where saving $30 upfront completely breaks your gaming experience. The 9500 GT heavily chokes here, averaging a cinematic 30 frames per second and dipping down into a choppy 20 frames per second slideshow. Switch your eyes over to the 9600 GT, you are seeing a smooth 50 to 70 frames per second. Even the 9600 GT's absolute worst minimum dips match or outright beat the maximum performance of the cheaper card. The extra cores on the 9600 GT turn a frustrating campaign into a fully responsive experience. By 2010, the demanding Unreal 3 engine in Mass Effect 2 forces our budget cards to make a compromise, dropping the resolution down to 720p max settings. Even at 720p, the 9500 GT is fighting for its life. While it hits a 50 to 60 average in quiet areas, it plunges down to 35 frames per second during heavy firefights, causing noticeable stuttering. Meanwhile, the 9600 GT rides away with it, averaging 80 to 100 FPS and keeping its minimum dips well above 60 at all times. This highlights the core math of the budget trap. By paying roughly 25% less for the 9500 GT, you are throwing away nearly half of the real-world performance. Now for the ultimate mid-theft 2008 hardware killer, Grand Theft Auto 4. We're targeting 720p medium settings with shadows turned completely off. To be brutally honest, this game is a complete disaster on both cards, but for different reasons. The 9500 GT sits at a miserable 20 to 25 frames per second, wildly crashing down to 10 FPS as you drive through Liberty City. The 9600 GT's extra core power pushes its average up to a decent 40 to 50 FPS. But look at those frame drops. It plummets all the way down to 12 frames per second. GTA 4's broken PC optimization and aggressive asset streaming completely overwhelm the VRAM architectures here, with both cards having 512 megabytes, resulting in a heavy jarring stutters on both sides. Finally, the timeless question, can it run Crysis? We are running at 720p on the medium preset. For a 9500 GT, the answer is a definitive no. It hovers around 25 frames per second, dropping into a choppy 15. But the 9600 GT pulls off a miracle, delivering a console-killing 50 to 60 frames per second with drops only hitting 35. Proves that buying the absolute cheapest hardware is a trap. Sometimes spending just a tiny bit upfront is the only way to actually save your money and your gaming experience. Which card were you rocking back in the day? Let me know below and subscribe for more binges. And I'll see you next time. Peace!